Welcome to our Excel slicing and dicing with pivot tables. Let me actually start sharing my screen right away so that we can get into the swing of it. Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to quickly call up my spreadsheet. So yeah, I've got a huge table with a lot of data in it, and the whole purpose of pivot tables is basically to create a summary of or a report of your huge spreadsheet, and basically it's an awesome analysis tool where you can actually see what your totals are for that particular year, what your profit margin, what's your expenditures of all those columns are built into your spreadsheet. So yeah, what I've got is I've got the annual turnover from 2012 to 2015 for 3 different branches. It's got the quarter, the different quarters of our year in year, and I've got the number of customers for the different branches that came into the store. Okay, so now I want to build a report on this. Now, before you start building your pivot table, there's a couple of rules that you must adhere to. Number one, there mustn't be any extraneous data. So there mustn't be any unnecessary data floating around. And the second part is there mustn't be any gaps in between, because as soon as you start a pivot table and you've got gaps in between, it will not bring all that data in. Okay, so that's what you need to keep in mind. So as you can see on my one, I've got the big header at the top, which is annual turnover 2012, 2015, and branch, which is in my case, my extraneous data. So now I only want to select my table. So to do this, I can go a long way by clicking on the first cell of my table header, which is on A3, and hold down my shift key, go down to the last cell in my table, which is I51. And if I click on it, it will select everything. The easiest way I find this to do, guys, because this is a smaller table compared to what you might want to work with. So say, for instance, you've got a larger table and you want to select this in a quicker way, then the first thing I would do is click on your table header, go to your home tab button, and in your home tab in your home ribbon button, you will see that there is the sort and filter option. So if you click on that, you can go to filter. Now, as soon as you click on filter, it will put in the filters. Let's put mine at the top. Let me just undo that. Select the whole table header, and select the whole table header. That is what I have to do first. And then I will select filter. So now it will put the filters in on my table header. So it will make it an actual table header. Now, what I can do is I can click in any cell, right? Just single click in any cell. And then what you do is you just hold down Control and you press the T key. And then it will select your entire table and exclude any of the extraneous data. Okay, so that's the quickest way of doing it. So first put in a filter in the table header, then you just go Control T and it will select it. And then you can see it's from A3 to A51, which we selected earlier on. So now I've got my table selected, right? And I want to now build a pivot table from that. So now all I do is I go to my insert button and I go to pivot table. Now keep this in mind. If I select pivot table, I can select pivot table or I can select the recommended pivot table. I'm just going to quickly click on recommended pivot table. If I click on recommended pivot table, it will automatically create the pivot table, but it will give me not the amount of information that I want to include in it. Of course, I can start selecting things and doing all of those types of things, but I want to do it from the beginning. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go Command Z to undo this whole process. In fact, I'm gonna delete the whole sheet, okay? And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to my insert button and I'm gonna click on pivot table. So now my pivot table will arrange the whole table, okay, which I've now selected earlier on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna choose the selection to put it on a new worksheet and not in the existing one. So once I say new worksheet and I click on OK, then it will put in my pivot table or the outline within a new worksheet. I'm just going to rename this worksheet at the bottom so I know with what I'm dealing with. I'm going to call this my annual report. Okay. So now what I can do is on this, with this pivot table, now I can start populating it. So yeah, on the sidebar, what I have is I've got my pivot table fields, and you can see the fields that have been added in is actually the column headers as what I had in my main sheet. There's my year, month, my branches, my quarters, and my number of clients. Now, yeah, it's the same thing. So now if I want to populate it to create my report. So now I'm going to do it per year. So in my year, I'm going to drag this into my rows. So they will automatically add in my years. But I also want to break down my years into different months. So I'll drag my months in. Okay, so it now I put my months in, I can expand it and collapse it by just tapping on the minus sign on the years, or inside of my pivot table contextual tab, I can click on the expand and collapse field option as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in my calculated fields, right? So first of all, I want to work out the total amount for each year, which will calculate the total amount for or the total amount for from 2012 to 2015. So I'm going to take my Cape Town and drag it to my values. Here's my Cape Town values, and I'm going to take Claremont as well as Tiger Valley. Okay, so now I've got all of those put into place here, right? And there's my grand total. And you can see that there's the total for each year, right? But I can also decide that I don't want to show it per month. I actually want to just show the year. That's fine. I can remove the month out of that by just dragging it out. Now it only shows me the year. So this is a quite dynamic way of working with with pivoting, okay, or with your tables. So now the same thing I can now do and just drag it back. Click on month. There we go. It adds the month in. Now, guys, you can notice that I've added in, or it shows me the total or the sum of each year. But now I would like to know, and it gives me the grand total at the bottom. I can, of course, change the, how can I say, the cosmetics of this by just going to design. So under my design, I would like to, I can show my totals at the bottom instead of at the top. So if I say at the bottom, you will see that it will put a field in at the bottom and keep that open. I actually like it that way. And I can go to my grand totals where I don't want to show it. I can turn it off, I can keep it on. For now, just keep it on. Under my report layout, I like to actually show my report as a tabular form. And this will basically put it as a separate column for my year. Okay, so it's nicely separated. Also, I can, for the open fields, I can go in and say, look, I want to show all or repeat all items for the open fields, and that will then add in the years. For now, I'll just not do that. Okay. Now that I've got the cosmetic side sorted, how about I add in a specific filter? So here I can see under my year, there's this filter where I can filter my years to say, okay, I only want to see 2012, and it will, as I change my filter, you can see it changes my grand total as well. I'm just gonna just show all the years for now. Okay, but now I want to add in another filter. Now the filter that I want to add in is my quarters. So now I can just drag my quarters into my filters here. So now I've got my different quarters, and I can say, look, I only want to see quarter one. And it sees quarter one for all the different years. Okay. Now this is how I can now I'm starting to build something pretty good. Now, one limitation that I do see here is that I want to actually have a calculation that will calculate all of my branches for a specific month. Okay, so now to do that, I'm going to go to my pivot table, analyze contextual tab, and then I'm going to go to the calculation section, which says fields, items, and sets. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say, look, I want to do a calculated field. And here it shows me the fields that I already have. Okay. So my field name is going to be, let me say, total month sales. Okay. So the formula is going to be from Cape Town, insert field, plus Claremont, insert that one, and then plus Tiger Valley, and insert that one. So now I say, okay, and you can see there it's now putting the sum for all of my months per branch, okay, and it automatically added it under the field name as well as under my values. Okay, but for now, so now I know how to put in an additional calculation field. So say for instance, you had a situation where you had your cost, your cost of your product and the actual price, and you wanted to work out the profit that you made on that, and you can put in a calculation field and you can minus the cost to the sale that you made on that product. Now that we've got some idea of adding in additional columns and so on, we can also look at how we can change this to say to a percentage of the column, right? Now, before I do that, let me just show you guys how I can change the value structure of it. So we're looking at the total, right? But what if I wanted to do the average? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all of my sums or my totals by just dragging it out. And I want to work this time around with my number of clients. So I'm going to put in my number of clients into my values. Okay, so there we go. But this time around, I don't want to work with the sum of it. I want to actually work out the average amount. So here next to my values, there's a little inspector button or I button, and I can click on that. And I can say, instead of doing the sum, I want to do the average. And now if I do that, then it will now start changing it into the average. And you can see the average is only for Cape Town. But now it's still showing the sum for that, and I can just rinse and repeat. But this time around, I want to actually see the maximum client amount for Claremont. So then I'm going to go with that one, and now it changes it into the maximum amount for that. And so I can go on and change the values. Now, now that I want to change it back to my items that I sold, I'm just going to remove these again. And I'm going to add in this time around again my amount of sales. Okay, so now we know how to put columns in, we know how to change the values, but say now I decide, or my boss says to me, it's all good and well, Angela, we've got the figures, however, I want to see the percentage to the total amount that we've made. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to collapse all of them just to show the years. And I want to see the percentage for, say, Cape Town. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep my value there, and I'm going to add in another value for Cape Town. So let me drag that in, I'm going to drag it in between Claremont and Cape Town. There you can see it says the sum of Cape Town 2. Okay, so I'm going to go to the I, my inspector button, and this time around I'm going to go to show data as, and I'm going to change this to percentage contributed. I'm just going to make it con. Okay, and here it says no calculations. Show data as no calculation. I change that and I say to column total. Now if I do that and I say okay, then you will see there it's now added in the percentage for that branch for the whole year, and I can now see which year contributed the most. Okay, so now we've got some idea in terms of how we can manipulate our pivot table even further, even adding in the same type of column and changing the way we show our data. I'm going to remove the percentage out for now. Okay. Now, the one thing that we can also utilize is, sometimes people prefer to see a graphical way of showing a pivot table. So we can go to our chart or pivot chart and we can add that in as well. Now this is quite dynamic, guys, because as you change your data, so will your chart change. So if I now go into, say, if I now expand 2012, you will see it now shows me 2012. Beg your pardon. And if I collapse it again, it will only show me the years. If I decide, look, I only want to see Cape Town and Tiger Valley, if I drag that out, then it will only show me those two. And so I can go on and make changes. It will change my visual or my graph as well. Now, besides adding in filters, right? Besides adding in filters, I can also put in what they call a slicer. So for now, I'm going to remove my quarter filter, right? And I'm going to put in separate slicers that I can use for filtering purposes as well. So to do that, I'll go back to my pivot chart analyze, and I go to insert slicer. So here it asks me what type of or which field I want to use for my slicer. So with this one, I'm going to go with, again, choosing my quarter. There's my quarter slicer. So guys, if you're in a situation where you see that, okay, I've now off my pivot table and it doesn't show me my pivot table fields. In other words, if I now by accident click on the close button to get my pivot table fields back again under the pivot table analyze, and all I do is I just click on field lists and it will bring it back again. Okay, so now I'm going to add in another slicer. And now with this slicer, I'm going to add in the, let me go with the months. So now I've got two slices, right? So say for instance, I decide, you know what, I actually want to see Q3. Then I can go Q3, and you can see that it actually dumbed down all the other months. And I only want to see in Q3 August, okay? So now you will see that it's even changed my graph as well. So if I expand my years, let me go to my pivot table, and I expand, okay, let me just expand each one of them. Then you will see that it actually will show me the total only for August. And so I can go in and change my slicer as I go along. On top of that, what I can do is if I want to show everything, you will see that on the slicer, it sees the clear filter. So if I click on the filter, it will then remove that, and I click on the last one, and it will show me all the information. Cool. So this is now how you can build nice and powerful leather reports on a huge table with using your pivot tables. So guys, that is my presentation, and I'll open it for questions now, and I've done it within our 20-minute time frame. Any questions?
Angela, that was really good, and you actually answered my question, which was going to be around the chart. So that came in. So I guess my next question is, do we have the same functionality or better in numbers?
Numbers has what they call categories. And for creating small little reports, it actually does the job pretty well. The one thing about Excel is that you can expand on it so much more, because you can have multiple filters with a slicer. You can add in the percentage, you know, without, you can do the same in numbers as well, but then you have to actually build the formulas for that, where Excel does it for you automatically.
Yeah, I think numbers is simpler, but not necessarily as, it doesn't have the wide-ranging powers that you've got. If you really understand how to do pivot tables, there's a lot you can do, but to actually understand and build them, you have to get somebody like Angela to explain to you. Whereas in numbers, you can just click on a column and say, categorize by this column, categorize by that column, and then you can do your subtotals, your totals, your averages, and your sums, and all of that sort of good stuff. And sorry, Brian, going back to numbers as well, your question last time about can you do discontiguous columns? You absolutely can. As I said, if you hold you hold down the command key and select your columns, it will just chart on those columns.
Thank you, appreciate that. Thanks for coming back.
Not at all.
Hi, thank you for an excellent presentation. I think pivot charts are excellent, and that is the most overlooked function of any spreadsheet. What I just wanted to know is the slices, or what would you use that for?
That is just filtering, just quick filtering. You know, what I've seen one of my clients do is when they wanted to build a quick report, you know, print out, then they would actually put in slices to show what they are referring to. You know, so you get where you can filter it down, but it doesn't give you a proper indication. So they will put slices on the side to show, okay, like we're showing. For say if it's a clothing shop and they wanted to show, okay, we're only showing lady garments that we've sold for that quarter, and so on, without putting it as a little text box within the chart. So now when they print it out, it shows that as a clear guide in terms of what they've done.
Wonderful. So if for instance I've got one pivot table that I filtered, and I would submit that as a report, shall I just copy and paste that to a new spreadsheet, or I mean a new page, and say copy and paste values? Or
you can of course copy and paste it in many ways as you want to, Yolanda. You can if you go copy paste, then it will only do the values, no calculations, right? But if you go copy and paste special, it will give you the option to do not only the values, but the formulas built into it and so on as well. That is if you have done formulas, like if you put in a calculated field, as what I showed just now.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if it's no calculation, then it's no point in doing the paste special. But if you've done a calculated field, please, ma'am, rather do the paste special and put in the formula option as well. I think I covered it in the last session, but I can maybe show you here if you want to.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, let me see if I can get it right for you quickly. Show you. So say for instance, I want to copy this into another sheet, right? So I'm just gonna select, actually I can just go from Control T. Oh, it's not doing it. So say for instance, I choose the entire table. and I go copy, and I go to a new sheet, right? And I can go paste it. Then you see it all pasted, but the notification just came there at the bottom where I can say keep destination theme, value number formatting, match destination formatting, formatting on it. So if you say destination formatting, then it will put in the values as well, or the calculations as well. The table that I had didn't have my calculated field, but if I said match destination formatting, it would keep that calculation fields as well. Does that explain it?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
It's a
It was
pleasure.
really interesting. Thank you.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, thanks, Angela. It was great.
It's a pleasure, guys. All of the best, and thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Angela.
Enjoy your lunch. And I
Thank
did that as quicker than a cup, and then making a cup of coffee.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hopefully.
Thanks, cheers, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Angela.
Bye.
Bye.